Thank you all. I'm Sarah, and I'm going to be the first of us tonight. If I can, there we go. How's that? And I have to redress a small. Wendy and I, in a sense, our partnership is a sort of arranged marriage. Linda Ashbrenner published and edited the magazine Free Verse for 11 years and then decided to retire, and both Wendy and I had separately asked her about whether the magazine would continue, and she said, oh, well, why don't you do it together? And at that point we didn't know each other. I had read some essays by her and she had read some work of mine, but we didn't actually know each other, so it's been a very serendipitous thing that, that we came together in this way and have really enjoyed working together. How many of you are familiar with Verse Wisconsin? Can I just see? Okay. I think, does Ron have some copies? Do you have some copies? There are copies in the building. It's a physical magazine. It also has an online version, versewisconsin.org. And we take as our mission, I'm not going to be able to repeat it verbatim, but we take as our mission that we foster community among writers in Wisconsin and beyond, connecting us to each other and to the broader world of poetry. And this centrality of our mission and community has led us in the past few weeks to spontaneously open a new call for work around the protests happening right here in our hometown and our state. We didn't think about this in advance. I simply said one day, probably February 17 or so, well, I think as writers that value community, we should issue a statement to our readership about what's going on in our town. And Wendy said, well, what would you think about issuing a call for work? And I said, great idea. And so we did. And we issued it on Facebook, and we sent out an email to our readership, and you could hear this relief come whooshing through the computer screen, just, oh, I'm so glad to have it. So we began to get poems. So I'm going to read a couple of my own work, and then I'm going to read some of the poems that have come out of that call for submissions, and then talk a little bit more about them. So, but this is my own life. This is a poem that I wrote before any of this erupted. On Wednesdays, the children learn to swim. Smack and plash of water noise bouncing off concrete walls and floors. Hiss of showers, thud of heavy doors, the ring of curtains drawn and ringing voices as teachers call across the water, all echo with nowhere else to fall but on our ears. Caught under and over the indoor light and water, sicky green, the sharp smell of chlorine, that door again. Pity the sea life painted on the wall, clownfish, shark, and manatee, pastel and frozen above a diver's treasure chest, cartoons with no way out. Like them, I'm separate from the action, behind a watery one-way glass. Behind me, a Disney movie plays itself over and over. A mermaid erupts out of the bosomy water, and like as not, a toddler climbs on chairs. I should be invisible, but the window's not that good. I'm a shadow shape. The kids look up, I wave. $1,200 tons each year to the U.S. You Janish flavor, nobody's secret, that gives the coz to winter, you are the single scent that turns the most men on. Hope of pale women earned by the teaspoon from Madagascar's trellised fields of orchids, female workers pollinating each day-long flower by hand, by thorn, harvesting seed pods, steaming, soaking, stacking, drying in sun by day, bringing them in by night, weeks on end, until they send you on, keeping their higher rates of cataracts and other eye disease. And I can't swear no animals were harmed. Maybe somebody kicked a dog. But what are the options? My 4-year-old turns 5, and that spells cupcakes, which need their sprinkles, need your teaspoon extracted from an orchid's seed. Like the vanilla workers in Madagascar, I have been very aware this past few weeks of how connected we are all to each other. And so, although Wendy and I don't usually publish our own work in the magazine, we decided that with this call we would allow ourselves to be a part of the community and to merge our voices with the voices of others. And so this is a recent one that I have written coming out of recent events. Faith will emphasize the second syllable. And you can see I started it on the back of an envelope. It's still very much in draft form, so we'll see how it goes. Faith will emphasize the second syllable. Tonight I'm driving with the wipers and the defrost on, considering how to write about a friend's poems as a fine-grained snow rain falls across Wisconsin. Dusting of magic under the streetlights, sparkle, sprinkle, glitter like the pink sugar I shook onto cupcakes not 3 weeks ago. You can see the bake sale theme here. It's really cool. Anyway, sugar I shook onto cupcakes not 3 weeks ago. The night a wide-eyed, breathless maybe, as rare as a little girl's 6-year-old birthday. And not 3 weeks ago, the teachers marched a first day, and I had not yet considered unions much. Unknown but to a handful, Shelley's poems clear their small silence in the air like breath on a frosty night. They burn and drip with her desire for Sophia, wisdom, which, in Shelley's case, translated to an urge to understand, to peel back until we reach an elemental vision. I take cupcakes to the classroom and oranges to the protesters because I have an extra box of oranges. Citrus fruit makes nothing happen either, but we give of what we have, and today I have oranges, and sometimes I have poems. Shelley, forgive me if I find, graced by baked goods and bagpipes, cowbells, and the sprinkling of bullets someone left to make a protest look bad, I move in an opposite direction, layering it all on, refuse to give up on maybe, on the lovely human muddle, even though, weather like this, visibility's poor. I'd like to read just a few poems that have come in over the internet, written out of the recent events. This is the very first one that we received. Spring Teas by Susan Herring. And it was written February 16. The birds were twittering again at first light today, and you were out there, floating in the early clouds of morning, doing a backstroke, I believe, through the pale skies of this February morning. The bells up high in the campus carillon rang out with such exuberance that the notes of their song tumbled like somersaults down a green hillside, or the colors in the dryer at the laundromat, the one with the round window set in the front. The crowds in the state capitol chanting the mantras of democracy swarmed like Sufis in a kaleidoscope or a mandala swirled in tinted sand on a windswept Tibetan mountaintop. Spring is not ours yet, but she did let show the lace of her prettiest petticoat as she swirled by in the clouds today, in the clouds, in the crowds, past the crowned heads and clowns, past the crow's feet and the cloned sheep of our daily visions. One barely notices that the hem of her well-worn wintry gown is stained with road salt and de-icing agents, as well as the toll of sweat and blood and tears this endless winter has extracted and exacted. And then some unknown school child who has slipped one hand into yours uninvited, tugs at your overcoat sleeve and asks you, "Why is that cloud up there naked?" Whereupon you glance at the sky, then me, before you say, with just the slight arch of one of your perfect eyebrows, shouldn't we go home together now? And I say, yes, please. Before Unions by Len Tooze. Grandpa showed me his crooked hands that he said were from playing baseball without a mitt, but I think it was from all the hard work. He showed me the BB under the skin of the meat of his left thumb that he got during a hunting accident. Still there, he said. He let me feel it myself and roll it around. When I sat on his lap, he would let me listen to his Hamilton Railroad watch. It's the most accurate watch there is, he bragged, and I guessed it was. Then he took down his small cap with a candle holder on the front. It was about 1886 I wore this cap in Hurley when I was 12, to climb down ladders hundreds of feet into the dark iron mine. All I had for light was a candle, he stated without self-pity or boast. I never went to school. I couldn't understand English, and Ma and Pa needed my earnings. Dancing with Liberty by Patricia Monahan. My friend called to say, I'm waiting at the top of State, but I was across the square, so I kept walking with the crowd past the media stands where a few angry men screamed through bullhorns while we answered the call, show me what democracy looks like, singing back over and over, this is what democracy looks like. The marchers slowing to let parents with stroller cross to the Capitol, past the costumed onlookers, past the sax player giving us solidarity forever, past the Harley-jacketed family, past queers from Chicago with raised fists. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. But at the top of State, amid thousands of marchers, my friend and I could not find each other. So I called and told her, look for the man dressed as Liberty, and cut through the crowd to stand beside a young black man in green silk and a plastic foam Lady Liberty crown. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. And he told me he was from Milwaukee and that his mother was a teacher, and I told him I was from Alaska and my father was in the service, and all the while music was pounding out from the Capitol steps, and after a few minutes we were dancing to Michael Jackson, swaying and pumping our arms. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. And somehow my friend never did find me, and none of us who are hoping for justice know whether we will find it, now or soon or never. But what the heck, my friends, isn't this what democracy looks like? Each of us, all of us, dancing with liberty. This is a poem from our current poet laureate, Bruce Deathlefson. From the principal's desk. Bullies are unhappy people. They come from sad and sometimes violent families where the rules change all the time. Here's how to deal with bullies. Ignore them. Go about your business. Don't feed into their unhappiness. If that doesn't work, tell someone in charge. If that doesn't work, travel in twos. Become a friend to make a friend. If that doesn't work, stand up taller. Be as big as you can. Bullies are cowards. Holler no in their face. The bully will get smaller. Respect yourself and never use violence. Bullies end up lonely and alone. They'll hang around their own kind until even they can't stand themselves. Okay then, welcome back to school. It's going to be a wonderful year, you'll see, with new hopes and new friends and dreams. So hey, say hi to me in the hallways, and always remember the principal is your pal. A lot of what came to us at first shared in that kind of fierce exuberance that I think a lot of us felt the first few days, that sense of just anger, but joyous anger, that we were all coming together and we were all fighting and we were all in this together. And as things have progressed, the submissions have slowed down. And I suspect that the poetry will change as current events change, as we become more creative in how we protest, as things move into chapter 2. I think the poems also that we write will reflect this. I think that some of us who have been too overwhelmed or too caught up or too distracted to write will find our way back to pen and paper. So we are leaving the call for submissions open, and we invite people to continue to send us work which grapples with current events, which grapples with community. Even as we move into new ways, we may not always be writing about marching around the Capitol dancing with liberty. We may be writing about our neighbor who lost their health care, or the teachers who are retiring, or however it affects us. But I hope that the poems will keep coming, and we are creating a new online issue specifically to gather these poems in as they come. And that issue, we've been posting them all on our homepage. When our next issue goes live in a matter of days, these poems that are on our homepage now will move into an issue which we are calling Main Street. So this is an invitation to everyone here to send work and to share the call with others. I'm going to close with a poem that I wrote just before this all started, but it seems prescient. It actually seems surprisingly fitting. It's called The Dogwood. I was reading an article in a magazine I've been meaning to read for a year. You know, one of those I really should, I would like to. Why not today, since I'm a little tired, a little run down, sorts of things. And part, not even halfway through, looked up, and there, caught something, a flame in the dogwood. A splash of January sol? Or, no, only a cardinal, scarlet, stitched in among the deeper ruby-hued weft of the hedge's branches. Now that's worth seeing. Two kinds of red chafing each other to heat on a cold day. But he didn't stay long, Redbird, and I went back to my reading. So why should I still feel, even an hour later, triumphant? It wasn't planned. I only happened to glance. I hadn't a pen to hand. Small aperture in the morning the eye darts through. Of just such flittering opportunities is friendship built, long distance and difficult, adult to adult, and tested when crisis interrupts the soup and errand running and swamps us in private emergencies. But now, it's only the dogwood again, with its steady message of blazing endurance, which I already told you about in yesterday's letter. Thank you.